Hi guys, I'm Mike.
And I'm Stephen.
And this is F1 Fanatics. Welcome back to another driver ratings. It is the Monday after race day. It's the place where we give the drivers on the grid a rating out of 10 based on their performance in the race. And obviously it was our race at the Hungary this week, won by Lewis Hamilton, Max Verstappen P2 and Valtteri Bottas in P3. Their ratings will be at the back end of this video, so make sure you kind of tune in to kind of see how they got on later in, or just kind of stay with the video. And if you're new around here and you like what we do on the channel, don't forget you can subscribe, like the video as well, and ding that bell notification because you can then keep up to date with all our latest content. But we'll get into the ratings. So Stephen, we'll start off with Williams. Which one do you want to go for, Latifi or Russell?
They're the same basically. Latifi obviously suffering from that unsafe release from his Williams team, not really his fault. Got the puncture, that was his race. Probably a 5 out of 10. He had a mistake in there as well. I think he locked up. Is that into the first corner?
I think it was turn 1, yeah.
Because he span when he had the puncture, but obviously not his fault. But then I think he span later in the race. Finished a lap down on Russell, but that was mainly because of the puncture. But George, basically the same, right?
Yeah, 6 out of 10 for George. I think he was obviously better within the race, beating his teammate, and it's maybe like a little bit favourable, though it isn't based on qualifying. He did have an amazing qualifying session on the Saturday, but the Williams race pace, great quali pace, but they haven't found a way to unlock that pace into a race pace currently, and yeah, kind of dropped through the kind of field and finished P18 only ahead of teammate Nicholas Latifi. So we move on to the second team, and that is the other team whose fortunes don't look great at all within the race, and that is Alfa Romeo.
Yeah, nearly got points finished last week, KIMI Räikkönen, but this week nothing really was there. Again, not much pace being shown, stuck behind just ahead of the Williamses in 17th and 16th. 6 out of 10?
Yeah, that's fair for Kimi. I mean, he had a great start. I think at one point he was running in P12 on position, but it just, the car beneath him doesn't have anything to kind of compete. So I think 6 out of 10 is probably fair about where they are. It feels hard to kind of rate them anything higher just because they're so low down the field and they can't really compete. But his teammate Antonio Giovinazzi, well, beaten by KIMI Räikkönen in the race again. Look, Gio to keep his seat. We've said it before, with Robert Schwartzman and Mick Schumacher lurking in the wings, even Callum Ilott doing fantastically in the Uni Virtuosi seat. You know, the Ferrari juniors are putting on a lot of pressure, and Gio needs to have some standout performances. It's difficult in a car that isn't beneath you, or when you don't have a good car to kind of stand out, but George Russell has, in fairness, from that, but we're just not getting that from Gio so far, so it's a 5 out of 10 for Antonio Giovinazzi.
On to AlphaTauri. I nearly said House, but AlphaTauri. Gasly, no score. His qualifying to get into Q3 was mightily impressive, with an engine on the verge of exploding. Got the new power unit for the race, but it just gave up.
It blew up apparently. I think it was on fire.
Yeah, he was on fire, yes. The garage was full of smoke. So we're not going to give him a score, but I think Kvyat, on the other hand, actually had a pretty decent race. He didn't get points. Where did he finish in the end?
He finished P12 in the end, but like we said before, that AlphaTauri doesn't really seem to be anywhere. No. And that's a pretty good performance, I think, in that AlphaTauri car. So I'm happy. I think we were giving him 7 out of 10. 7
out of 10 for solid. No points, but in where AlphaTauri are, solid.
Yeah, in context, it was a good race for now. And the team we now move on to, you almost said, which is Haas. And two very differing opportunity. Well, circumstances for the drivers. So, Romain Grosjean and Kevin Magnussen, I believe Kevin Magnussen lined up after the installation lap on full wets. They did their formation lap, both came in to put on slicks, which turned out to be a free pit stop because everyone else changed onto slicks after lap 1 and lap 2, which ended up with the Hasses being in 3rd and 4th place in position. Like genuine merit. That's where they were. But for Romain Grosjean, he kind of dropped through the field like a lead balloon. He really kind of fell down through the field and could only manage 15th in the end. So for Romain, he is really struggling this year. He's not getting the performance out of that car. It's a 4 out of 10 for me.
Yeah, I should just say, going back to Kvyat actually wanted to do the same as the Haas boys. On his pace at the end of the race, he was looking pretty quick. He may have actually got points if the team actually backed his decision. But yes, Kevin Magnussen, 9th. He did. The team did back his call to pit. Incredible race in that Haas machine that's looking way off the pace compared to the rest. 9th. 9 out of 10.
Yeah, 9 out of 10. I don't think he is definitely one of the drivers of the days. And I mean, the fact that he didn't even, I think, make it into the pole, well, he might have been on in terms of like 3rd place into that. But incredible drive from Kevin Magnussen to not only take advantage of that kind of upper hand that they gained by changing onto slicks at the start of the race, but also, you know, he stayed there. He just stayed there throughout the race. And once he got into the points, he never left a points position, I don't think, throughout the rest of the race.
No. LECLERC, because he kind of benefited of the team we will move on to next, Ferrari, with Charles Leclerc. I will start off with finishing 11th. What are we going for? 6 out of 10 for Leclerc?
It's a 6 out of 10. It's difficult because it's a 6, but you could argue he did the best he could. There were still some good overtakes and defending from Charles.
It was mainly the team strategy that determined Leclerc's position. When everyone was doing their early stops, maybe Ferrari thought, let's try something different. That different was going on to softs, and the soft compound looked terrible out there today. So those went very quickly, lost a lot of positions, and then had to go very long on the hard compound, which meant he didn't have any pace towards the end of the race.
Clearly the Ferrari hadn't paid attention to the Formula 2 or Formula 3 races earlier in the day, where tyre degradation was a massive thing on the race. And so, yeah, decided to try that risky strategy. And yeah, look, it's difficult really to know where he is, but Sebastian Vettel was on the better strategy. So he was pretty neck and neck with his teammate up until then. Had a pretty good start, actually, Charles, as well. So I don't know, potentially he's a 7 out of 10, I'd say.
It is so difficult with the team strategy skewing where Leclerc would have finished if he was on the same track to Vettel. But Vettel did take him before Charles's tyres started to go, or drop off massively. So I think Seb did have the pace advantage on him. Yeah.
So I think we're going to go 7 out of 10 just because I think of how he competed with other cars on the field, and he did have a very good start, but obviously he had the compound difference to kind of do that. Well, no, he didn't, because they all started on Inter. So yeah, 7 out of 10. It was a difficult one for Charles, and it was a difficult performance. But Sebastian Vettel, his teammate, that Ferrari car still doesn't look great with the more downforce on their car as a kind of philosophy this year. It definitely would suit a track like Hungary more. Having qualified, what was it, P5 and P6, Sebastian Vettel finished where he did. At the time of recording this, there may actually have been a decision that drivers ahead of him may have been penalised, so it may be better, but realistically, I think the only way it can improve is to P5, P6. It doesn't really matter. It was a strong and good performance, I think, from Sebastian Vettel in still what looks a very difficult car for that Ferrari to drive. So for us, it is a 8 out of 10.
8 out of 10 for Seb. Solid drive. You'd say 6th in a Ferrari was bad, but yeah, that Ferrari, 8 out of 10, 6. Very solid. Points return. On to Renault. Are we going Renault? Yep. Ocon. Another iffy race for him. I know last week he retired. This week he actually got... Where did he finish?
He got in the points. I think it was P8.
So that was the carnage race. I think convincingly beaten by Ricciardo again. Well, he was convincingly beaten. He's not showing that he can be that first team driver yet, I feel. Really struggled with pace. I think he had a poor start, dropped right down into 17th or 16th. And then actually finished outside the points as well in 12th?
13th, I believe.
13th.
He was behind Daniel Kvyat.
Kvyat going.
And he was ahead of Russell.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Not Russell, Norris. A lot of people ahead of Russell, unfortunately.
It was that like train he got stuck in. Whereas Ricciardo, so we're giving Ocon a 6.
5 out of 10.
5 out of 10.
5 out of 10 for Ocon.
Yeah.
Well, he's still kind of holding out time, but it's not looking great. He's still got some rust to kind of go, but he's got to quickly start upping his game, I would say.
But Ricciardo, on the other hand...
Oh, that's me. Sorry, switched off. I was like, oh, Ricciardo. What did Ricciardo do? No, Ricciardo, 8 out of 10. Brilliant drive from the Aussie guy, extracting the most out of that Renault and proving that if you do push that Renault, that it's potentially a better car than the McLaren overall, I would say.
On race pace,
It's certainly on, race pace. Qualifying, I don't think they can match the McLarens, but hey, at the end of the day, it all comes down to having that pace on a Sunday. And in the hands of Daniel Ricciardo, that Renault definitely thinks they did. And even so, I think, no, they wouldn't have been able to compete with the racing points ahead of them, of Sergio Perez. Maybe today, because we'll get on to Perez, but he didn't have a great race. But yeah, 8 out of 10 for Daniel Ricciardo, very strong.
He did one of those, he's doing quite a lot of them, that first long stint, well, ignoring the interchange, that first long stint on the slicks, getting ahead, and then managing the second stint. He didn't really make much progress when he changed for the fresher tyres, but still very solid performance from him.
They're getting in the points, I think, is always a good return for them, especially considering the cars that were ahead of him.
Yeah.
I don't think they would have expected to beat many of them. Maybe Vettel's Ferrari on strategy, but they went long on that, anticipating there might be rain. They gambled, but still did very well out of it.
Yeah. Well, moving on to McLarens. Lando Norris, known for this season his last lap heroics. None of them in Hungary. Really, he said in the interviews he kind of messed up at the start, and that was the race. McLaren threw in a 7-second pit stop in there to not make things any better, but Norris wasn't very pleased with his own performance, so we are going to go for a 5 out of 10.
Yeah, it may sound harsh on Norris, but from his own admission, it wasn't a great performance, and it just, he's got to be finishing ahead of that Renault. I think of Esteban Ocon, who also isn't having a great time, and from what we've seen from him early doors, it was a little bit disappointing. He had some great on-track battles with Charles Leclerc. His defending from Charles Leclerc
it was very good.
Was a really top part, and he did fight well in that aspect. But again, it was like Charles was a difficult one. I think was skewed by his pit stop. But if the driver himself is saying that he hasn't had a good race, I think it's probably fair to kind of give him a lower rating.
And because of Austria, we're kind of putting him in a higher standard. So, a P14 for Norris compared to his last 2 races, it's a big drop off. So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And
we're not saying he had a bad race. Sorry.
We're not hurting Lando. Yeah. Please don't hate us.
It's just by his own admission, 5 out of 10.
Yeah. His teammate Carlos Sainz, his best race of the season so far, which doesn't probably say much about it. Not points wise, but I think he was probably very solid. Combated the troubles that he had in the pit stops well, drove a very strong performance. His pace was very good, made the move on Charles Leclerc late into the Grand Prix to get into the points. So I thought his best performance of the season so far, and a 7 out of 10.
Yeah, he had another 7-second pit stop as well, I think. He's probably getting used to sitting in the pit stop for a bit now, SAINZ. Yeah.
He's going to ask for a snack soon. Excuse me, where's my biscuit? Thank you.
I know, I'll be here for a while.
Oh dear, but yeah, that's definitely an area that McLaren will be wanting to improve on going forward. But we move on to Racing Point, the team that has again had a protest put in by Renault against them, which expect to see at every race until the Racing Point is cleared up, which it means that each race it's gone through, that it would then probably mean that Racing Point, would lose all their points from all the races that Renault have protested them competing in. But Racing Point's performance themselves, we'll talk about Sergio Perez first up. Started P4.
I was going to leave Checo to you.
No.
I was going to do Lance Stroll because,
We'll jump in with Lance.
I know what's coming with Checo. Lance started, as you said, he started P3, didn't he?
Lance started P3, yeah.
Started P3. Finished P4. Very solid. No drama. Was quite far off the pace of Mercedes, but...
so is everyone.
Yep. I think he finished 20 seconds. I saw he was about 20 seconds off Bottas at one point. But, you can't really match that Mercedes at times. Yeah, very solid. Going to give him a 8 out of 10.
Oh, you were going to go 9.
I was nearly going 9.
Oh.
I because that Racing Point is second/third fastest car on the grid. But he didn't put a foot wrong. It was a spotless performance from Lance Stroll.
Yep.
I kind of want to go 9.
Okay, 9 out of 10
for a
Lance
guy
Stroll.
Under incredible pressure.
That's true.
Maybe his seat may be completely safe. Maybe Dad's gone. Don't worry. But public perception of Lance Stroll is at an all-time low with Perez Vettel rumours. And just to come out with a solid performance.
Yeah, beat Perez in both qualifying and race.
Deserves a lot of credit.
That's all you can do. All you can do is do your talking on the track. And Lance is proving that with a good car underneath him, that he certainly is a competent level of F1 driver.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
Here we go.
Checo. So, obviously, qualified in P4, dropped down the order massively, had to work his way back up. I don't know if there was any kind of... This is still on filming on race day, so I'm not sure if there was any kind of technical problems with Sergio Perez's car, but he just didn't have the pace, and he was dizzy in practice in qualifying on the Saturday. It just didn't really kind of go well. So I'm going to give Sergio Perez a 6 out of 10 for finishing P7. Lance showed that Racing Point was capable of at least finishing ahead of one Red Bull and finishing ahead of the Ferrari Sebastian Vettel. So it's disappointing for them probably that they didn't secure 4th and 5th and some major points in the Constructors, although with the protest that may be all up in the air anyway. But it's all they can do is compete. And I think, with Sergio Perez, it was a disappointing race, especially after what a brilliant race that he had last time out in the Styrian GP.
Bad day at the office for Checo. But Racing Point still looking good. On to Red Bull. Now, I don't know who to start with. I'll start with Max. I'll leave you with Alex Albon. 10 out of 10 for Max. Anyone that splits the Mercedes this year is probably going to get a 10 out of 10 from us because those Mercedes are on a completely different level. I expect them to win every single race or mechanical failures. But Max, it was having that feeling from last year. Max doing the long stint on the hards. Bottas getting a free pit stop because the Red Bull teammates are lapped down. And Bottas flying. Gets within less than a second of Max at the end, but Max manages to hold on. And, well, fantastic race display from Max, but then a shout out to the Red Bull mechanics that managed to give Max a car to race on as well. So 10 out of 10, faultless, started 7th, remember, and finished 2nd. So spot on race for Max.
It was an absolutely brilliant performance from Max. And any race that he beats one of those Mercedes this year, I can't, like you said with Stephen, I can't see him beating both Mercedes bar mechanical issues on pace, is an incredible performance from him and just brilliant. His teammate, on the other hand, Alexander Albon, look, we don't like to keep sticking the boot in. It's a very serious thing. I've spoken about it on the live streams. Obviously, we've spoken about it in Race Review podcast, and I'm sure we'll talk about Alexander Albon in a bit more detail tomorrow in the Race Review podcast. But you finish a lap down on your teammate. I believe it was over a minute behind when Max Verstappen finished. No one's expecting Alex Albon to match his performance, but no one expects Bottas to match Lewis Hamilton, but he was still closer in machinery. He's got to be supporting his teammate and his team, and it's not good enough. So it's a 4 out of 10 for the 2nd week in a row for Alexander Albon.
Yeah, you say 13th to 5th is a good result, but
in context,
yeah, he didn't show that great pace, and finishing behind a Racing Point. I know Racing Point's looking very good, but
the first person you've got to compare yourself to is your teammate.
Yeah.
And in any situation, I don't care how good your teammate is, and Max Verstappen is one of those talents that he's incredible. But you can't finish a minute behind your teammate. Or be lapped by your teammate in the same machinery.
Yeah.
So, Mercedes, rounding off the big boys. Do you want to go with Valtteri Bottas or Lewis Hamilton?
I'll go with Valtteri, and this may sound harsh for someone who's got on the podium in 3rd, but we're giving him a 6 out of 10 because he's in a Mercedes, which is in a different planet, as mentioned several times before. He basically had the job that Lewis had last year, but couldn't make
see it through.
Yeah, he couldn't get 2nd and beat Max on his old tyres. 6 out of 10. It was an okay drive. He had a terrible start. Obviously, he jump started. I think I was looking at the analysis. They were saying he just about avoided a penalty because it was like 0.2 of a second. I don't know. And he didn't cross his grid line, the white line. He probably should have. Technicalities, probably going to avoid a penalty there. That messed up any challenge for the race win. Good recovery drive. He's in a Mercedes. Should have got P2. 6 out of 10.
Any position, I think, where with how good that Mercedes is, any time that one of them don't finish in the top 2, and most likely that's probably going to be Valtteri Bottas if it's one of the 2 drivers finishing out that, it's not a great performance by them unless obviously they've had some sort of grid penalty thing like Lewis Hamilton did in the first week starting from P5.
Drive errors in there that contributes to their situation.
Yeah, there was mistakes, obviously the jump start, there was lockups when kind of trying to overtake people through there, and he wasn't able to get past Max Verstappen. I think if he gets past Max Verstappen, it's an 8 out of 10.
Yeah.
From there.
That's the difference, yeah.
But I think it is a massive difference not being able, just for the championship as well, he can't afford in the mental battle to let Lewis get ahead, and now Lewis is ahead. I'd be surprised if Valtteri could get ahead again this season. Very interesting to see. Lewis Hamilton, a race winner. Again, another incredible pole lap on the Saturday, setting a new lap record for the track, set a new lap record on race day. Again, flawless performance. You run out of good words. All you've got to do is sit back and just admire what you're watching. This is one of the greatest people to have ever driven in this sport, and he's just turning up and absolutely killing it week in, week out. He still has to beat his teammate You know, he's still got the pressure. I mean, Bottas made it slightly easier on that front from there, but he's just got to keep going around. So it's a 10 out of 10 performance from Lewis this race, because he never puts a foot wrong.
Yeah, I think we joked about last week having the Ferrari class and the rest of the F1 as two different classes. It's kind of a Lewis Hamilton F1 championship and the rest.
And the rest is a pretty good championship, to be fair.
So Max Verstappen, race winner. We did it with Kimi, now we're doing it with Max. Yeah, you can't fault it. You could say it makes it a bit boring how great he is. That in itself says a lot. He just does it so well.
It's up to the other teams to beat him, though.
Yeah.
You know, it's not Mercedes' fault that they're good. You're not going to turn up and go, oh, well, let's be worse so the other people might get a chance to win. It's up to Red Bull, it's up to Ferrari, to build cars, because they've been the closest challengers, to compete. And again, Red Bull have bought a car that's slow off the blocks. Ferrari...
Engine. Drop mic.
Boom! On that front. But yeah, it was just a brilliant performance from there. But that's it. That's another driver ratings from me and Stephen here. Let us know in the comments below what you thought of our ratings. Do you agree, disagree? What would you have rated the drivers out of 10 for this weekend? It certainly will be some interesting thoughts there, because I think there will be some varying degrees on what people rate. But if you're new around here, I mentioned it at the start, but if you haven't done so already as well, what can they do, Stephen?
They can like, they can subscribe, and they can ding that bell.
Ding that bell. But that's it from us, guys. So for now, you F1 fans, keep racing!